All right, so let's begin by welcoming you all to our webinar today on young citizens getting the most out of deliberately designed group work. We're glad to have you here with us this afternoon. I am your host, Jessica Hayes. I am an active classroom certified trainer, and our presenter tonight is Freddie Jesus. Freddie has earned her master's from Concordia, Texas University and a bachelor's degree from the University of Texas in Applied Learning and Development. He is the recipient of the Texas Council for Social Studies Teacher of the Year State Award. She has worked with Social Studies School Service for about 4 years and is a certified trainer for young citizens. Mrs. Jesus has written curriculum, articles, and webinars, and in her free time, she enjoys being with her husband and 2 boys. Now I'm going to turn the session over to Freddie.
Hi there. Thank you so much, Jessica. Our webinar tonight is Young Citizens Getting the Most Out of Deliberately Designed Group Work. And let's get started. So at the present time, there is a strong scientific support to the benefits of working in groups. And the research shows that the collaborative work promotes academic achievement, and that, I'm so sorry. At the present time, there is a strong scientific support for, I'm so sorry, Jessica.
Yes.
Can we start that over again?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I sent you a text just now about the technical issue.
Okay. Is it messing up on your end?
It's just blocking, so I'm not able to read or
Oh,
see.
I got you. Okay.
There you go. Okay, I'm so sorry.
No, it's
you're
fine.
here. Okay, let's go back then.
Okay, I'll start over.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so let's begin by welcoming you all to our webinar today on young citizens getting the most out of a deliberately designed group work. We're glad to have you all here this afternoon. I am your host, Jessica Hayes, and our presenter is Freddie Jesus. Freddie earned her master's from Concordia, Texas University and a bachelor's degree from the University of Texas in Applied Learning and Development. She is the recipient of the Texas Council for Social Studies Teacher of the Year State Award. She has worked with Social Studies School Service for about 4 years and is a certified trainer for young citizens. Mrs. Jesus has written curriculum, articles, and webinars. In her free time, she enjoys being with her husband and 2 boys. Now I will turn the session over to Freddie.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I wanted to welcome you tonight. Let's dive right in. So, teachers want their students to be successful, and Social Studies School Service has a comprehensive textbook program called Young Citizens. It offers an array of hands-on and project-based learning experiences to engage and support your elementary students. So let's learn about the role that group work plays in the K through 5 classroom, as well as strategies that teachers can implement to ensure each child's success. At the present time, there is a strong scientific support for the benefits of students learning and working in groups. In addition, the research shows that collaborative work promotes both academic achievement and collaborative abilities. The benefits are consistent without regard for age, so from preschool all the way up through college level, and without regard for curriculum either. When working interactively with others, students learn to inquire, share ideas, clarify differences, problem solve, and construct new understandings. Students working together are actually more motivated to achieve than they would be if they were working individually. And this is huge for our elementary students. What does working in a group look like? Working in a group often refers to utilizing the group members' skills in order to achieve a common goal. Moreover, the group work supports collaboration, and we want all of the members in the group to be involved in working for a common task where they can produce a joint outcome or product. We really want that group work to be characterized by common effort, utilization of their competence, and problem solving and reflection. So where do we begin? As teachers, we're constantly evaluating, problem solving, and looking for ways for all of our students to be successful. We know reading levels, we know abilities, personalities, and dispositions of our students. We want them to be excited about learning, and we want to push them to excel and achieve whatever that looks like for them. But where do we begin? Let's take a look at how Young Citizens is organized and is considered with this comprehensive program. So how is it organized? Young Citizens starts with educational integrity. Nystrom Young Citizens has been carefully developed according to 3 measures of educational content integrity. You have the national and state social studies standards, the college, career, and civic life framework for social studies, and the progression of depth of knowledge. So Nystrom Young Citizens is correlated to, for example, Missouri inquiry standards for kinder through 5th. The standards tell us what students need to learn. The content has been planned to address your state's social studies standards, as well as the National Council of Social Studies themes of social studies. You'll find a correlation to general standards in the scope and sequence section of the Young Citizens, like teacher resource book or online, to go along with the correlation of your state standards. The C3 framework, the college, career, and civic framework. This is a 4-stage process of the inquiry arc. This points to how students are to go about learning. The framework was created by the National Council for the Social Studies to provide, as it was suggested, guidance for enhancing rigor in kinder through 12th, civics, economics, geography, and history. So, progression of depth of knowledge. This is a measurement of the complexity of the thinking task that we ask students to complete. So with level 1 complexity, these are questions that students might be asked to recall a fact or a piece of information or a procedure. Students then process the information at a lower level. Examples might be, who was this person? Can you recall a fact? Level 2 is dealing with the skill or a concept, and the types of questions they might be asked to answer for level 2. How are 2 things alike or different? What do you notice about? Level 3 is strategic thinking. Students are developing a plan or sequencing steps. Questions might be, what facts would you select to support this idea? And then level 4 is requiring students to make connections and extensions and utilize complex reasoning. This is where they're researching and writing a report. They're developing an argument for or a different point of view and data that supports that point of view. So what tools does Young Citizens offer? Scientists who study the brain know that we remember and understand much more when we're actively engaged with information rather than just passively receiving it. Manipulating the learning in different ways through different processes and sensory modalities, the learner builds more interconnections between the neural networks. This provides multiple pathways to retrieve the new learning from long-term memory. So with Young Citizens, we have different hands-on learning tools. We have in kindergarten, the floor map. In first, second grade, you have desk maps, you have the hands-on globes that are you can marker on and students can find locations. Examples of how those might be used include students looking at a map to find the shortest route from the library to the grocery store, or students using dry erase markers to locate information on the washable globes. These globes promote group work, working in partners, and hands-on learning. The students really enjoy them. Another type of learning tool is using the group activity cards. And this structure is great for teachers and classrooms. It allows for each child to have a role every time they have group work activities. It allows for differentiation. Children are able to work and utilize their strengths. If the same structure is used again and again, students can try different roles as the year progresses. Everyone feels successful and has had the opportunity to connect with their peers. So when we talk about the structure, there are different roles for the students. There's the reader who reads the passage and questions for the group. The timekeeper makes sure everyone does their job on time. The writer, when the group answers the questions, the writers will write the answers down. The artist draws pictures for the group, and the presenter explains the group's answers and drawings to the class. Here are some examples of the group types of things you would find on the group activity cards. So for example, this is second grade, and there are 4 parts to each one. Part A is students read the informational text about the special day. In this example, it's celebrating St. Patrick's Day. So they'll read the informational text. B is when students will work with their group to answer the questions. Questions might be, why do people celebrate St. Patrick's Day? Or how do people celebrate St. Patrick's Day? And they'll use the reading to find the answers for that. Part C, there's always pictures on the group activity card. So this is where students will examine and look for details in the photographs and the captions underneath. They'll read those captions. In this case, it's about St. Patrick's Day. So they might look at the parade and look at the river, the Chicago River, and notice it's green. And then they see the shamrock for St. Patrick's Day. Part D is where students will work to answer questions. about the pictures. Why is the Chicago River green instead of red or purple? Do people in the parade look like they're wearing special costumes? So those might be typical questions. And then there's a fifth element where the students in groups have an opportunity to share out to other people in the class. And so for this class, in this case, they would choose one part that they wanted to share, and the presenter would share that with the class. This is a first grade, chapter 5, state symbols topic group activity card. Notice there are engaging pictures and questions. These will allow students to practice and connect with the content so that students are exposed to the needed rigor. Also note that the roles for the members of the group are present. You still have the reader, timekeeper, writer, artist, and presenter. And so you have part A, look at the chart. So you see that it's about state symbols. B, work together to answer these questions. What is the state flower of Texas? Looking at C, there's a chart for students to examine that have the state flower, the bird, and the flag of different states. Part D, they're answering questions. And then E is they have an opportunity to share out. And this is first grade. Most of the group activity cards you will receive multiple copies of the same card. In this, there are a few times where they are varied with information and they are not just duplicate copies. So in second grade, on chapter 4, the group activity cards for How Does the Town Grow? And it's talking about holidays, and there are 6 different holidays. So in this context, you could have 6 tables of students completing cards, and all of them would be different cards. You have Cinco de Mayo, St. Patrick's Day, Rosh Hashanah, Kwanzaa, I'll defer, and then Mardi Gras, going through the same process with A, B, C, D, and then E. Looking at 5th grade, this is an example where students are examining the Civil War. They also will study the contributions of the Native Americans, immigrant peoples, African American, Latinos, and women. Students are developing in 5th grade perspective and point of view. So this is so important for students to learn about struggles and bravery, and they learn to really appreciate different paths people had to take to solve problems and survive. Now let's take a little bit of time to examine another learning tool by young citizens. These are leveled readers. And the level readers come at each grade level. There's 3 different levels. One is a below level, one is an at level, and one is an above level. So each chapter in the leveled readers has an activity using those readers. These are nonfiction books that cover the same topics at the different reading levels. There are colorful illustrations and text features. They include pre- and post-reading strategies aimed at improving the depth of knowledge and communication results. These books can be used in a research capacity with students working in small groups, and or in pairs. So you can see there are 7 different ones for 2nd grade. This is the 2nd grade level reader. It's an on-level reader with rich text features and information. And at the end of each book, inside the cover, there are 4 or 5 questions. Note that there is bold vocabulary words in yellow. You have trundlebed, churn, and harvest. This reader would focus on colonial America and what it was like for the people living in that time. Another book example is The Island of Many Wonders, and this is the people of New Guinea. And again, you have the highlighted vocabulary words for culture and diverse. You have photos with captions and engaging text. Another type of learning tool that Young Citizen offers is project-based learning. And students have the opportunity to use a variety of skills to create their own public project. There's one project per chapter, and it fosters group work and collaboration, and they are just really exciting. The kids get so excited to participate and get to be a part of these different projects. There's a discovery and exploration time, as well as student research time. Students discuss things, they revise what they're working on, they communicate the results. So there's lots of critical thinking going on, collaboration, as well as high interest in the topics that are chosen. Components of the project-based learning in Young Citizens includes student engagement. The children get to give input on what outcomes they want to see. They have a compelling question. This is where they focus on the direction of the project. The final product is reflective of what path they chose. Student decision is where students develop what to say and how they're going to say it, perhaps when they're presenting or choosing their outcome or path to present. And they discuss everything from the plan to challenges to issues. The last component of project-based learning is just utilizing those 21st century skills: collaboration, communication, critical thinking, time management, and technology. So let's look at a couple of different projects that would be maybe at first grade and higher level. So for first grade, we have a family scrapbook, and this is one type of project. And we see that students have been learning about the importance and function of being part of a family. The chapter project is supporting family connection as well as socio-emotional learning. What a special, happy time 6-year-olds will have making this little keepsake. You can see that there's on the scrapbook project page in the teacher's guide, it has materials needed. It maps it out by day. It tells you the objectives and the project description. And then there's a student checklist of things for them to check off as they complete them. This is an example of a 5th grade project. It's a newspaper going through time. Students apply knowledge learned from the study of the 19th century. Students report on events from that time, and they also have a focus of editorial writing. They'll illustrate events, chart data with graphs, construct political cartoons. It makes me want to do this project. It's just so inviting. The rubric on this project includes research elements, newspaper elements, and group work. And you can see that for teachers, you're circling just the rubrics 1, 2, 3, 4, and when scoring at the end. Young Citizens offers other learning tools, and here you see a picture of our textbook. We want our teachers to have a bag of tools that shape instruction to maximize learning for every student. So this not only includes social studies content, but concepts and skills with essential thinking skills and language arts proficiency. So each chapter has a quick pre-test for background knowledge. Each section has assessments that give quick feedback to indicate their progress and where they need more work. This information is gained on these informal assessments that then give further, kind of guide further instruction. So when I give a pre-test, I'm going to find out what my students know, maybe areas they don't have background knowledge on a certain TEK or curriculum piece, and that helps me scaffold for them to make sure they are competent when we get to the end of that chapter. So you can see we talked about activity sheets, quick writes, arts and crafts, end of chapter tests. This is an example of the Young Citizens activity sheets. This is first grade, and they're being asked to cut out pictures to glue of the things that they need, that you need. And so there's 6 pictures for them to pick from. This is an example of a great way for students to show what they know. In chapter 3 of second grade, they're learning about aspects of culture in the Young Citizens textbook. So they're asked to make a list of celebrations and choose one of their favorites. The learner then can go into greater detail, drawing a picture and writing a sentence about it. This personal connection is really important, and the quick write is a great way to engage and also gauge students if they're picking up a concept, do they need more support or scaffolding? These are a few research opportunities where students in first, second, and third grade learned how culture is a way of life, and they went beyond the Young Citizens textbook to research their own personal family heritage. As part of the unit, literature is shared. Here's a book, The Keeping Quilt by Patricia Polacco. And finally, students shared with their classmates the poster they made. And they were able to research, and share their own family heritage. So this type of personal connection with the textbook and craft is so important because it helps the learner remember those details to carry the information into the long-term memory part of the brain. Assessments for Young Citizens offers at the end of each chapter, there's a more formal or summative assessment to evaluate student learning. There are review materials to assist students in preparing for the chapter test. Chapter projects are also there. Students work together and apply what they learn and create something of value to the classroom, the school, or the community. And those application projects could be where they're creating the project-based learning or just smaller tasks within the chapter. This is an example of an end of third grade chapter test. It's chapter 7, and it's what challenges our planet faces. So in this chapter, the reading skill, they're learning about true and false. And so part of the test is putting a T or an F next to a statement. You'll notice that there's also a map where they're asked to add and show arrows where pollutants would go from the landfill to the lake. There's vocabulary matching. And then at the bottom, you see that students are now starting to write in paragraphs to a topic. And the topic here is explain the 3 R's and give an example of each method. So there's different mediums for students to express themselves through the end of chapter test. This is an example of a 4th grade test. How are people connected in a community? So you can see they're utilizing graph skills, multiple choice, fill in the blank, and then also short answer. Now that we've kind of looked at several different kinds of learning tools for young citizens, what are some strategies that will help us with group work in general? In productive group work, authors Nancy Frey, Douglas Fisher, and Cindy Everlove offer tips for creating a group work-ready classroom. They want students to have lots and lots of practice sharing ideas. And you want to create a space that is safe for students to do that. Students need to be able to practice sharing ideas, using academic language to make arguments, present facts, and politely disagree. By laying the groundwork with proper language skills, teachers can build up to group work where multiple students will have different perspectives where they can effectively communicate their ideas. This, of course, would look very different in the kinder 1st grade realm and all the way up to the 5th grade realm. Another way to ease into group work is to have the students work in pairs. Start small with lots of short partner-driven conversations so that students can foster the interpersonal skills needed for the more complex task. You don't want to go too fast because then your students won't be ready for the complexity of the task. So you want to start slow, you want to start small, and really build them slowly and steadily. Planning backwards, start with the objectives that you need to know. Give a pretest to find the areas of strength or weakness. Note the skills that they need to master. Then utilize small group discussions or assignments. Using this information then to build on the bigger group projects and practice skills. And then finally, you want to integrate smaller projects and lessons so that there's an individual accountability as well as group accountability. Assigning groups with intention. You want to make sure that you're thinking about the kids in your class. Think about how each group will be assigned in your project. Will it be based on the nature of the activity or the length of it? Sometimes teachers want groups leveled by reader ability. Other times it might be based on big strengths or the effort of the students. Sometimes it's just random. When you're looking at group-worthy tasks, you want to make sure that they are open-ended and require complex problem solving. You want to provide students with multiple entry points to a task and multiple opportunities to show their intellectual competence. You want to deal with the discipline intellectually important complex, the discipline-based intellectually important content. You want to require that interdependence between one another as well as that accountability for individuals. As you start to work on these projects, you want there to be clear criteria for the evaluation of the group's product. Student accountability. Student accountability could look very different depending on if it's individual or the group, right? The group optics look one way, while individual assessments allow for a clearer picture. So you'll have quizzes, independent writing, assignments, or formative assessments. And then for group work accountability, you might have roundtable discussions, individual stakes for students in the team task. Constantly looking, knowing your students, and looking at how they're growing as the group work progresses. Group dynamics. Make a plan for this, right? Part of working together is being together. This can lead to interpersonal issues with personality conflicts, disagreements, overactive socializing. Make a plan for dealing with these issues before they derail your group work. Students do most of their group work in the classroom, and that allows you as a teacher to sit with each group. I know when I work with my students, usually, depending on what it is, but 30 minutes is about the most that the class can handle for second grade. Then they start getting off task or they're tired because they've been putting lots of energy. They're so excited to work in groups. So 30 minutes is about the time that they can manage and hang in there together. It allows me also to rotate with my groups. I can ask questions. I can evaluate where they are in the process. I can give feedback. I can support individual students or differentiate. And usually I'll provide more scaffolding for those weaker groups and differentiate as needed for the stronger groups. Embrace the mess. There's not a one-size-fits-all. Different strategies will work well for different groups. Know your students. And that's probably one, what works for one class may not work for the next class. And just it's really important to know your students. Know who they are, what their strengths are, where they struggle. As we get to know the young citizens resources that support comprehensive, collaborative, and dynamic group work experiences, we want you to know that there is so many avenues for you to explore with young citizens. This could be the textbook activities, the project-based learning, or the application task. These differentiated lessons can be presented and adapted to suit all of your learners' needs. They foster collaboration as well as partner or group work. Group work and collaboration makes school engaging, challenging, and all children have the opportunity to contribute and thrive. As teachers, we're constantly evaluating problem solving and looking for ways for all of our students to be successful. Young Citizens has resources such as hands-on globes and maps, group activity cards, leveled readers, project-based learning, application tasks, thinkbook expression of ideas, formative and summative assessments, and digital components. As teachers, we know reading levels and abilities, personalities, and dispositions of our students. We want the children to be excited about learning, and we want to push them to excel and achieve whatever that looks like for them. Young Citizens can support and help teachers to facilitate that important collaborative work. Thank you so much for your attention tonight. All right. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Freddie. There is a comment from Mantra. She says that she has a couple of wonderings. First, she likes the emphasis on roles. This helps students know what to do when they don't know what to do. There is an expectation. The task cards to include the readings, images, graphs seem to get them ready for the culminating project. She understands that the notion of group work extends to the project and students will carry forth these roles in completing their projects. She's interested in seeing some student exemplars. Have you collected any video of students in their work?
I have had photos. I'm working with younger elementary age, and I tend to group students based on reading ability, based on because of the age. I have readers and non-readers, and so I want to make sure that every group is supported. I also offer different choices so that students may make a book of information, whatever the content is. They may make a poster. They may make a scrapbook, a family album kind of thing. And I try to give choices. Sometimes with the non-readers, especially, or kids with dysgraphia, we have to be creative about what their contributions will look like. And so I try to give choices to allow for that. I don't have video per se for that, but I've just had experiences.
Hi, I'm Montre again. So the reason I was thinking about the group activity cards, and I thought about where I was confused is with the project-based learning projects. Are those individual, or do we extend those to group projects? That's where I was a little
Confused.
Yeah.
Okay, the group activity cards are separate from the project-based learning. And the group activity cards will be cards, they're heavy cardstock, and they come with each chapter, there will be a set. Most of them, like if you looked at second grade, most of them will be 4 to 5 copies of the same card, except for the holiday one. The holiday has the 6, so maybe it's 6 copies of each one, but the holiday one is all different. So for most of the group activity cards, you'll have 4 to 6 copies of the same card. And you would have kids, they would each, if you had 6 tables in your classroom, you could do 1 card per table. And that's one activity or one learning tool. The project-based learning is a separate activity. It's at the end of every chapter and it's more involved. So for the family scrapbook, you might choose to work on that a week, 2 weeks with your class, and they provide the rubric, the materials, and what to do day by day. And depending on your students and you know, the student needs and curriculum needs, you could stretch that out or keep it as compact as you need to.
I guess what I'm asking is, okay, I am Jessica. I just took your name, Jessica. And I'm in my class and I go through my group activity cards, right? And yes. I'm answering the questions. So I guess in my mind, Jessica, me, I can use the information learned in those group activities to prepare me for the project-based learning project, right? Like they're not disconnected. Yes. Yeah. And so maybe I'll just take a look at the system. It's, you know, take a look at the product itself. But my question is still, it's like, I like the presentation is around group work. So I'm wondering, how do we, like the scrapbook, that's kind of more individual, right? That's an individual thing for a kid, for a student and his or her family. I'm wondering, how do we extend this group work to the bigger projects? How do we have students working collaboratively to create something new based on their learning? So even at elementary, I'm wondering, can kids maybe petition to have a St. Patrick's Day or some type of a holiday, something in their school? You see where I'm going with this? So I've learned about holidays. I've done this group work together. We've read, we've answered questions so that we could, reflect on the material. So then the next step to me, and this is just a space for wondering, right?
Yes.
Would be, okay, how do I take that information? And I know it's not in the work, but maybe
Yes.
I truly use it as a group, and we come together as a group to create something new, to maybe petition for a celebration of holidays without understanding of why.
Yes, and I see what you're meaning. Like to create so in that chapter, what leads up to it is the reading about what makes a town, and part of that is the cultural celebrations, and the one part is the community celebration, one part is the family celebration. It's several lessons, and one of them is about cultural and holidays, arts and holidays. And so they're reading in the textbook, and then it's connected to the group activity cards where here are 6 holidays. And then you can take it to that next level where they are exactly like you said. Here are holidays. If we wanted to construct and make our own, what could we make? We could design a holiday. It could be based around art. It could be based around culture. It could be based around something at our school that we see as needed, that we want to celebrate and honor. Yes.
Yeah, I just thought about that because the powerful, you presented really great research around the power of group work. And I just wondered during the whole presentation, how do we continue to capitalize on those roles that the program provides to extend that to their bigger learning? Because like the questions and readings, that's helping me to gain new information, right? I'm gaining new information. But then what really matters is what they do with the information gained. And so I wanted to know, how does that notion of group work find itself in that place too?
So that also makes me think of Mantra with the 5th grade, where they're learning about different points of view and the struggles and the challenges of the different people. These people influence the world we live in today. And then just what are you going to do? Like after you're studying from the book and you're studying from the project learning, what are you going to do that will change the world that you live in, for the next generation? Or look at how they have influenced our thinking today. What will you do as a young person that will change the world that we live in? And posing that question, looking at their struggles and problems how they solved it, looking at the different groups of people. And I was looking for that.
Or how can we collaborate? Because that's one of my 21st century skills, right? Mm-hmm. How can we collaborate to address an issue? I always like to say beyond the walls of the classroom. How can we collaborate to come up with something? When I was thinking about the holidays, how do we honor the many people in our community by creating programs or creating opportunities for celebration of all holidays in our school? How do we as students lead that charge? And then what do we need to do? Do we need to write a letter to our principal? You know what I'm saying? Like it really helps them to kind of frame it in a more relevant way. And what I'm thinking is that the power, as you stated, is in the group work. Individual kids can't, a lot of times students can't, it's the collective voice that gets things moving, right? So that's why I see that group work. I think that this sets them up in the beginning to do that bigger, kind of more collective voice kind of thing at the end. So thank you.
And I could also see, depending on what the topic is, they could write a letter to the mayor's office they could write to their representative. They
Mhm.
could, depending if it's economics, they could write to a toy company about a defect in a toy they see. Yes, I agree. And those
Yeah.
would be the challenges to taking it and extending it further.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
And just
that.
keeping in mind the power of the groups, because that to me, when I saw those roles, that I was hooked as an educator, right? So I'm
Yeah,
hooked and I see the power. And then when you followed up with your research to say, well, we all know it takes away a certain anxiety for kids. We know that these type of activities really help students English language learners. They really thrive in cooperative ways. So how do we carry that whole theme throughout all of the learning? Because then I felt like at the end when you talked about the scrapbook, right? I felt, okay, I
yeah,
was in this group for so long. Oh, I'm by myself again.
yes. And I
I
could
know that
see,
have some individual accountability. Don't get me wrong. I know that.
yes. I
Thank
wonder too if it could be even um, that could be maybe they do the scrapbook about their family,
you.
and
Mhm.
then you know there's a newspaper toward the end of the year that kind of is like a scrapbook, like what are the field trips we went on, what were
Yeah.
the things we loved, and
Yeah.
then also just fun kid kind of favorite
Yeah.
joke or
Yeah.
things like that. um Editor, learning about like first and second grade, they're learning about how to be a reporter and the five who, what, when, where, why kinds of
Mhm.
things. Um, but yes, definitely. I love talking to you. I think you have great wonderings.
I enjoyed it myself. I'm secondary, so this is really, I like this program, and I'm often
Yeah,
thinking about what could it look like not the program itself, but the essence of the program, the pieces. What could that look like to actually build curriculum around the pieces, like the group activity cards? How to
yeah,
transfer that into like um, intervention classes, right, for secondary, how to transfer that. I'm always thinking like that. So,
and really, you're using the structure and changing the content to fit your needs,
yeah. Mhm.
and for sure, definitely. And the mediums, whether it's a scrapbook, a newspaper, um, a poster, like, and then taking it further, I always try to take it back to the kid, like, what will you do next? How will that impact your life?
Mhm.
Because they're the future leaders and they're going to be making those decisions.
Yeah, this
So,
is good. The group activity cards, I'm gonna dig a little deeper. This is really good. I think that's a good piece. And I like the way it's organized with the A, B, C like that. So,
BD, yes, yes, I agree. Thank
yeah.
you, Mantra, so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate your like sharing and being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Freddie. So this concludes our webinar this evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. If there are no more questions, please fill out the quick evaluation that I placed in the chat box, and once you have completed it, you are free to leave. Thank you again.